Bing bong, crop-ticians and doomslayers. I'm going to lay out an idea for a trade that I have on Papa John's, PZZA. Share my screen here. All right. We got about 6 things that I'm looking at here. So I'm going to start by pointing out, you see the red line, the red moving average is a 200 period moving average, and we're currently on the monthly. As you can see, we've just come down, touched it, starting to get a positive reaction. That happens to be confluent with this channel, although I'm open to being told this is a not proper, because you can see it doesn't quite touch up here. Also in 2008 crisis, we break out of it, and briefly in COVID, we get some volatility down and out of it. But outside of that, it seems to be to abide by the channel fairly well. Ignore my beagle in the background. Then we have this macro most, as I like to refer to it, 236 that we are at the moment holding. So this confluence of technicals right here, I like because it gives us a clear area to manage our risk. So maybe something like that. Now, one of the issues I see with this is we have had volatility in the past that has taken us out of there briefly. You see right here, which is after that crisis. But anyway, we're going to explore a couple more fibs here. If we draw a fib in from the COVID low, you can see we are currently in a golden pocket. And then if we ignore the COVID low and explain that away as if it were some sort of black swan event where volatility was coming in, we can see that we're currently at a 786. So there's some sort of resonance, or I don't know if resonance would be the right word, but confluence of fibs right there. Now, I could be wrong about this. I have an old flash, and I'm not 100% sure how exactly to use it or how to look at it. But so please correct me if I'm wrong, but it appears that we have a flash at $60.88 at the open, if that's how this works, at the open of the candle right after the flash on the DMI here, which I'll drop a horizontal there, and we'll just quickly look at the significance of this. So there's some significance on this horizontal level clearly. So whatever that means, that's a little bit up in the air. And then let's drop a horizontal here, the low we came into, and we can see we came in and tested. You see it's that high right there. Besides these two candles, you can see how it was support there. I guess we could call it resistance here, although that resistance is really the center line of the channel more so. Same with here. I don't know if we would point out the body close above. We are on the monthly still, so we don't see much detail on these. Maybe we should zoom into the weekly. Yeah, it's clearly a bit more significant. You can see here, or the significance is clearer, I should say. I like that. Then we're going to drop a fib on here. And I don't want to call this a speculative fib because we do have a low we can measure it to, but I just like to drop these fibs on and kind of see how price, I'm referring to price up to the point where I use the bottom point for the fib, and just see how it abides by the fib. And if I could see that actually realistically being the low. And I mean, this is, I kind of like to look at this. I mean, clear significance, holds the 236, test of the 0.5. Then when it breaks the 236 right here, we get a violent move. A couple things I just want to point out. Side notes, this does pay a dividend. We'll pull open the side here, 3.85%. Earnings are coming up on August 1st, which I think they just recently announced. I think the period ends, June. One other thing I wanted to point up is, I mean, there's clearly some sort of inflection in the trend, because we were trending down, but now we're getting this change in the velocity, and also what appears to potentially, now correct me if I'm wrong, but appears to be an uptrend now, right? I'll go to like the hourly. Or maybe it's just sideways price action, but this is clearly different than this, which it hasn't done anything like what it's doing here since maybe here. I think I could be wrong, but this looks like, lower highs, lower lows, and this actually does have higher highs, similar highs, and then higher lows, and then similar highs and a higher high. Another thing I wanted to point out was the RSI signature. I don't really see anything that I like, and we're deep in the bearish control zone. On here's the weekly, or I guess we'll just start from the top, from the upper. Here's the monthly. I will drop a horizontal. We are literally at what, 34.64, which is the lowest it's ever been. So we're right at that level where it's been twice, almost 3 times. I guess I should quickly drop some verticals, and let's just glance at what price, how it behaved at those other times. All right, that turned out to be the low there. Turned out to be the low there. And then we had more lows come in. So wow, that's divergence on the monthly. Jesus, what the hell? That's intense. It's a long-term trade. Let's look at the weekly. You see we're in the bearish control zone, deeper than anything in the history of this asset. So that's a little bit out of character. We slightly had something right here, but I think that's COVID, right? Oh no, that's 2016. Wrong about that. Scratch that. One thing I'm just now noticing is we are below the weekly 200, which I guess has occurred a few times in this asset's history. I'm just going to kind of skip to the 2-day. Let's glance at the RSI. This is the daily. And so one thing I'm a little worried about is it does appear like I don't really know what to say about that trend line. I wasn't drawing that on as a trend line. I was drawing that line to point out potential incoming bear or continuation divergence. Although the one thing I'm unclear on exactly, because there has to be continuation divergence. Like, look here. Here's an example. As it takes back the center line and then continues on. So right here, it was, it looked like continuation divergence, but then it took back the center line, held its own moving average right here, and then went back onto the top half of the RSI. I don't really know how to interpret that, except they're just managing my risk properly. Zoom in a little bit more here. Glance at the 4-hour also. And I guess all that's left to point out is my targets, which I'll start by dropping a fib from this high to the low. And so my first target I have here is this gap right. Actually, the fib is irrelevant, but this gap right here, which I will drop a horizontal at the beginning of the gap here. Do I need to be selective? And just wanted to point out that previous gap that also is right on that line, the high right here. This is clearly also a significant level. So that's the first target, is the beginning of the gap at 55, 54, 55. Then 59, which 59.50 right here, which you can see is not only I'll drop a horizontal again, just so we can explore that real quick. Top of the gap, happens to be the top of that gap. It's also basically where that, if that was a flash I was pointing out on the monthly at $60.88, then that's kind of confluent with that flash in this breakdown, and that support right there for a moment before the breakdown. So that makes the first target 54, then 59 to 61. And then, I mean, that's probably multiple trades on the cards there, but also looking for a move back to the center line where the golden pocket is from this fib drawn on, assuming this ends up being the low and we don't get a breakdown further. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like that's a long-term trade, but this does pay dividends, so it could be worthwhile. I mean, if you get your asset appreciation over a year or two double, plus you get dividends the whole time. Anyway, that's what I see on pizza. I'd love some feedback.